Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
So, before we get going, gents, has anyone heard from Jamie? Because he's not here.
He's gone on holiday to somewhere in the Gwent region to look for an attack coach, because that's only a place where dragons are allowed to get one from.
I heard he's spending a week with the dragons to cover 10. They're at that level of cover for 10 now that Jamie's had a bit of a call up.
He's somewhere in Capel Dewi looking for a 34-year-old centre who used to play for the Scarlets.
Truth be told, I've had a letter from his wife saying, please can Jamie be excused from playing with his friends this week because he's got to go and test his budgie smugglers with the family. So Jamie is off testing budgie smugglers. Let's go do a show. Indeed. You're listening to RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the RAP Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as always, Harley and James. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
James is sporting a rather fetching bucket cap this evening, with a halo on top as well, James.
Apparently, yeah, it's very, very bright.
So, is this celebration for last week, is it?
No, it's just you all whinge at me when I wear my work clothing, but I'm on annual leave this week, so I have no reason to.
I don't think I've ever whinged at you for saying...
Not on camera, no, off camera.
I never whinged. I've just taken the piss about how, you're a Glory supporter. Going for a team that is slightly less bad.
For whom I pay my pension towards.
That hat looks like it's got like a camouflage design on it.
It has. It's like, you can't really see it because my camera's awful, but there is a camo, and it's basically it's green and gold.
Masks, isn't it? It's camo, I think.
But it's incredibly nice. It's
actually one of the better bits of Osprey's.
It's miles better than we've had in the past.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's start with drink of the week then. So we did have a complaint last week that our current performance on drink of the week was completely useless. So I've made the effort this week. Still got a cough. While I have a coughing fit, Harley, you do yours.
So I was going to bring out the last of my Morrison's collection, but I went to Dartmouth Food Festival for yet another Tory fest. James will be glad to know. And one of my sort of favourite Devon breweries, Bays. So this is just a regular craft lager called Devon Rock. So sort of a preview into when we get towards the Christmas episodes, I have bought my festive rat beer, and that is locked in, ready to go.
Is it
just a very
crafty,
nice?
But is your Christmas one a proper crafty ale, or is it like
it's not a proper crafty? It's like a good standard warming bitter, the sort of thing you want, and on a crisp winter's eve.
Okay, is it come in a gift box with like Father Christmas on the front?
No, it's just got a vaguely festive name. I don't really go into the whole Christmas ale bollocks because they usually taste a lot like ass. But yeah, but unlike this, Devon Rock, which is absolutely wonderful, very nice, crisp, refreshing lagery. More on the sort of ale-y side of the lagers than that sort of commercial chemical tang.
Okie. So, James, the complaint was really aimed at me and you, mate, and our glasses of water last week. So, are you redeeming yourself this week, or are you?
I've got my Stanley Cup and I've got loads of 7-Up in it, so no. And if you were the person who complained, right, my username on X is @JNPhillips. If you do want to go send me abuse, please send it there. And
At least
also I don't care. I am having a drink this week. I'm at a wedding in Cheltenham this week, so I'll be having my 3 beers of the year there.
And you called me a class traitor.
It's not my
But can
wedding.
I just say, 7-Up in a Stanley Cup is really fun to read and say. So
Yeah.
I think you get I think you get kudos for that, if nothing else.
I didn't even have a drink at the women's game on Saturday, and there were beers literally on offer, and I was like, I can't be asked. I'll be in bed by like 3.
Well, I kind of made an effort because I still have to stay sober for another couple of weeks. So I've gone for a Beavertown Laser Crush alcohol-free.
Well, they're good there. Beavertown's fun.
But it was on clearance as well. So I thought in for a penny, in for a pound. And I mean, it looks like sparkly piss, but it tastes okay. It's not bad.
This is what I've been telling you. The issue you've been having with alcohol-free beers is you're just not finding the right one.
They're hard. They're hard to find. And yeah, most of them just have a funny effect on me. Anyway, we are there. Jamie, no doubt, is sipping pina coladas.
I'm sure he's drinking something from the Riverside Bar and Cafe. As he's basically their shill now.
Yeah, no, he will be sitting on a balcony in budgie smugglers and Sanjak glasses with a fancy, the fancy cocktails with all the fancy bits around them and all of that. That's what he'll be doing.
He's definitely smuggled some tiny rebel into whatever country he's in. He's gone up to the bar, can I have some pequeña rebledle or something like that, He's gone.
I bet he's gone to Butlins in bloody Skegness or something, didn't he?
Yeah, I lived right next to a Butlins. It was an experience.
I used to love going to Butlins. I don't know what.
I went to the one in Minehead quite a bit, but obviously I lived next to the one in Bognor Regis, and you could tell when it was adult weekend at Butlins because the train. I'd be on the train to work, and just at the platform at Barnum, which is the next station to Bognor Regis, where a lot of people have to get off. There's just suitcases of stags and hens and various like middle-aged groups who are trying to relive the glory days. If you've seen the film The World's End, one of the Cornetto trilogy, it's that. That's essentially what Butlins and Bognor Regis was.
They were saying that I've seen the complete other end of that, which is the toddler weekend, the toddler weeks.
I used to love taking mine when they were toddlers. So
it was. I mean, I've never seen so many little tiny welly boots.
Yeah. It's
but I mean, my daughter had fun, and now apparently we're going for a birthday in March now.
I did fall asleep at a Bob the Builder breakfast one day with one of them, and when the scarecrow tried to wake me up and move me on, I took exception to it.
Was there a slight bit of violence?
There was a threat of what you're trying to do. I'll take you outside now. But I turned him down. So,
to be fair, just because you can start drinking from like 6 a.m, there, you don't have to leave.
I used to love after that rather bizarre experience. I loved it after that. Right, let's talk rugby. Let's talk rugby. Let's talk last weekend's games because Jamie isn't hiding because he was the only one of us that hadn't won. So according to Wales Online today, it was 2021 the last time.
22
was it? Last time 3 Welsh sides won.
Oh, sorry, I think I meant Dragons. Yeah, no, 2021. You are right, sorry.
Was it? There you go.
Sorry, I thought you meant Dragons then.
No. The last time 3 Welsh sides won on a weekend, which kind of gives us an idea of the state of the game in Wales at the minute, to be honest. But let's go in order then. We'll go. So Friday night was Scarlet Zebra. I'll be honest, after about 10 minutes, I was a little bit worried because that Zebra try was class. It was a beautiful try. And even a lot of my Scarlets mates are kind of going like, well, you can't really complain about that. That was the chip over the top was just perfectly weighted. And yeah, you couldn't complain about that try. Second half, yeah, it was okay in the first half. It was competitive and but we were playing into their strengths.
A lot of
Uh,
errors.
and I think we were trying to force it a bit too much. It was a bit like it's a zebra. We need to get the bonus point by half time. You know, we need to do this. We need to do that. And there was a little bit of
Trap a lot of people fall
impatience.
into.
Yeah,
Remember,
but
like one thing I think teams forget is like to score a bonus point, try bonus point, you need to average a try it once every 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Like there's no extra points if you do a Leinster and get it in the first 38 seconds. Like, you know, just sometimes you do just need to calm down and just trust your process. But
yeah,
also it is proving my zebra prediction quite well of them starting fast at the blocks, and as you get to the end of the blocks, they tire and
Hmm.
it's not
Well,
looking
they've done
very
it
good.
for a couple of seasons now, haven't they? They start the first two games really strong, and then they have maybe a wobble on the third and fourth. It said by the time you get to around 6 and 7, they are um, ready to sack a coach and all sorts of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, it was pleasing just to see the way it was played and the spirit that it was done in. You know, it wasn't. We didn't try to bully him up front because we were never going to do that, and we cut space in the backs and just used the ball when we needed to, which was good. You know, some more excellent performances. Tame Plumtree was immense again. Josh McLeod was superb. Front row are really standing up well. Your whole of the pack are really starting to come together. I know it's zebra, but those are the games where you do need your bigger boys, people like Plumtree and McLeod, to really kind of take the lead and say, right, we're not going to take it easy. You know, we need to do what we do. So yeah, and Eddie James is just superb. You know, I've said a couple of times before with somebody, like I said, he's been having quiet games because he's constantly drawing two tacklers. He's constantly got two people on him. And if you slow mo all of the clips on the weekend, you'll see he's dragging in the two tacklers, but he's slipping the ball into the space where that second tackler is coming from, which that's his job. You know, that's what he does, and that's what he does really well. So yeah, all in all, it was good. It was just good to get a couple of monkeys off the back and just have a decent win. And it was good to see. Actually, it was good to see Dwayne Peel smiling after the game again. Did anybody watch the interviews after the game?
Quite frankly, no.
Oh, you need to watch the interview with Eddie James after the game.
Oh
Literally,
yeah,
so
he
yeah,
swore
that
big
one.
word.
It was
Wow. Adult
I,
man swears.
You always
I-
get one every season. You
yeah.
know, Mike, the best one
It
is still
was-
Paddy Patterson when he basically went, you know, he said, "Oh yeah, it's fucking amazing." Oh fuck! I said, "Fuck!" and he just basically just then, you know,
Well, there
sometimes
was-
when you try not to swear, and you
Was
just
it
end
John
up doubling
Hodnett
down.
in the URC final? I think it was John Hodnett in the URC final. He swears, and then Peter Romani just like pulls your face, like your dad at parenting when you get told that you're a distraction in class.
Well, Scarlett's once told me that they purposely stopped Samson Lee from doing interviews because of he just couldn't stop, and they prepped him and prepped him and prepped him and prepped him, and they'd done practice interviews and they'd done all sorts of stuff for him, and he was ready to go. And they'd spent like the whole week, 2-3 hours every day. Samson Lee just in front of a camera recording all that. Yep, great, he's fine. And they say, "How was the game?" "Oh, it's fucking great. It was fucking amazing."
On the plus side, I mean, that problem solved itself by him just never being fit enough to play.
Yes, being
Can't do
permanently.
interviews if you can't play.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was. I mean, that was a Scarlet's game. Really enjoyable. And it's nice to see everybody.
Let me
there.
bring you back down to earth a second. Yes, it was zebra. I do think there are still some clear issues with the Scarlets that will get exploited by better teams. Your discipline is still minging. Tame Plumtree is having a fantastic season, and he fully should be the starting blindside for Wales. But he's one of the most penalised players in the league. And
He's everywhere.
yeah, no, and it's because he lives on the edge. But if you're going to live on the edge, you've got to find that balance of not giving away the penalties, and he is. And then your handling is fucking awful, and that comes from forcing it. But that comes from having a controller at 10 And ironically, what you get with Leo and Lloyd is you're winning games and you're getting gain line and you're doing all this. And then when Costello comes on, he controls the game better. Costello is doing a really good job off the bench at the minute. And I think he needs to, I think he should continue that role. I think he's really, he's slowly getting confidence back.
Yeah,
but
it's
no,
hard
he started, didn't he?
Yeah, they did. They went for the dual
they went
playmaker
for
this
10-15.
time around.
Ignore me. He dropped. I know he still looks shot of confidence, but I think he performs better coming off the bench for me.
Like he's getting there. What people are really conscious of is running another Priestland.
Yeah,
and
that's,
doing what happened to Priestland. I think if anybody tries to do that, then they're going to come up against a lot of issues. And there's a lot of support for Costello to make sure that doesn't happen.
The issue is, right, he has to perform though.
Yeah.
Like he can't hide away from it. Like he has to perform. Like as much as we have to avoid another Priestland situation, right? The game has moved on in terms of how it treats players.
Yeah.
It's much better at supporting that. But equally, we can't just shield him. If he continues to make the mistakes that he's making, little things like dropping high balls, forward passes, things like that, they add up. And, when he goes back to Leicester next year, they're not going to want that. They're going to want him to be in tip-top shape.
He's not going back to Leicester. So he's, from what you can see, you can pick out the bits where he makes a mistake, but the rest of his game is actually improving a whole lot more as well. So
I'm sure
I don't think it's that much of an issue at the minute. There's a whole, he's going to be in Wales camp, and then there's obviously 2-3 weeks after that where he'll be injured and not available. So he's got a decent layoff now until he's back on the pitch and gets to start afresh. I think he'll be fine. I genuinely do. He's rock solid. He's talented. I think the balance between him and Johan Lloyd, I'll be fair, the pair of them are a nightmare to get hold of because they're so short and with all the steps and all of that kind of stuff. You compare them to Patch, who's 6'3", relatively easy to get hold of. They're quite short and nippy, and I think Johan Lloyd's beaten the most defenders in the URC so far this year.
It's because he's ducking under. Like
he's made the most
attacking sets. He's literally just going under defenders. I mean, it's another example of everyone says chop tackles and go lows for the big guys, but it's also for the little nippy ones. Because you want to go, you think, they're small, so I can dominate, but you can't.
No.
Point of order, I just want to call it, Scarlets are actually the least penalised of the 4 teams, the 4 Welsh sides. And
I said tame Plumtree.
He said Plumtree.
But
you said they're discipline in all as well. I mean, they have
given away discipline,
cards, but 2 of them were Tom
I don't mean in
terms
of. I don't mean in terms of amount of penalties. I mean context of where the penalties are. I say if you give away penalties in the middle third, you could sort of get away with it. It's when you're giving away penalties past that middle third.
I think the difference is now that the expectation level now needs to change. Where if we'd have been sitting there last year, bottom of the table, giving away penalties left, right, and centre, nobody really gives a shit. When you're top half of the table, you've beaten the guys in third, the Bulls in third or second, beating one of the top 4 teams. You're looking good, and all. Then the expectation level is to improve your discipline. So I agree that the discipline needs to improve, and I think the handling, like we just said, the handling in the first half would come from forcing it and trying to do stuff, and that again comes from having the confidence. So I think that's the next step that they need to take now, is having the confidence to know you don't need to force it for the first 20 minutes. Having that confidence to go, if we score the winning try in the 79th minute or the 82nd minute, it doesn't matter. But we're going to score that try.
The litmus test for Scarlets now will be this next block, because it's a considerably harder block than where you are now.
Yeah. Well, we'll discuss a review of the blocks later. So let's move on to an Ospreys win against Edinburgh on Saturday afternoon, James. So you obviously didn't see the game live, but you obviously watched it
No, I
since.
did.
You saw the game live. How did
Yeah.
you see the game live?
I was. It kicked off. So this is a bit of an insight now to my job. When we work match days, the majority of my work is done pre-game. So it's out in the fan zone, selling raffle tickets, doing whatever charity stuff I need to do, and then the first half of any men's or women's game, we're there counting money, doing all these different things. So we're in the office. So it's often on TV. So I managed to have the first half of my phone. The issue was URC TV was glitching out. There was something coming from the feed. It's fixed itself on the playback, but I didn't see the first half. The first half was frustrating. We got ourselves in really good positions and just kept messing it up. We started really well, actually. It was the best start we've had in a while. We didn't concede, that which was we scored first. But you could see the difference. You're having a Dewi Lake, having a Jack Morgan, having Adam Beard, Brings. Yeah, so frustrating, Owen Williams. Owen Williams is really, he's a fine, talented player, right? But with him, sometimes it feels like it's one step forward, two steps back, you fall over and your pants around your ankles. That's what it feels like with him, missing two kicks to touch in a row, right, is not acceptable. And the way we were mauling, our lineup is fantastic. We arguably could have scored two or three more tries that half, because Edinburgh, look, people can say we were woeful, we played 10-man rugby, don't care. However you thought we were, Edinburgh were 10 times worse. They were genuinely awful. And for a team that is double our budget, has a squad size of about 70, less, they were playing an A game against Ealing at the same time. So, they're double our budget, double our squad size, and they were awful. Jack Morgan was carrying around Duan van der Merwe like he was a puppy. And the second half, then we just put our foot on the throat, and we got the two tries. We tried for the fourth, didn't get it, but I'm happy we got the 4 points. They came away with nothing. That we needed that win. That was, I wouldn't have cared if we'd have won 9-3, and it was, an attrition, a horrible game. But we did score 3 tries. The atmosphere was good. The boys really put that shift in, and it gives us that bit of a boost going into this 5-week break. We've got an A game against the Dragons. We're welcoming players back. We're looking to have Fender, Rhys Davis, Will Griffiths, Rhys Henry back. So it just gives that bit of positivity into a slightly easier block. If you look on paper for us, it's probably our biggest test will be Montpellier away. But yeah, that was good to see. Jack Morgan, we have to talk about Jack Morgan. It's been 400 days roughly since he put on a Wales shirt, and you could see how much he's missed. 16 completed tackles, 3 turnovers, 13 carries. Bloke's ridiculous. Picking up Duan van der Merwe like he's nothing. Just brilliant. Osprey's born and bred. Absolutely fantastic player.
Bred?
He's born in Swansea, man.
Born and bred in
born
Swansea.
And
created
born in
and
Sketty.
molded
Played
in
his rugby at Aberavon, and then had a gap year, and then came to Ospreys.
So for me, and I said this last week, and I said it on the URC pod, that I didn't think it was never going to be an exciting game from the Ospreys. It was going to be, you go back to what you do well, which was, driving lineouts and driving mauls. And that's what it was, and fair play. That's what got you over the line. But at the same time, you're right about Edinburgh. They were shocking, and have been
They were
for
genuine
a while. So I think so your next game now is Zebra in a couple
Away.
of weeks' time, and
Away.
given what we just did to Zebra, and not what we did to Zebra, but the way we did it, which was through the backs, running them ragged out wide, where their strength is they've got some great big humpers up front that can, compete. Yeah, they have. They've got some large young men in their pack. The Ospreys have got to find a different way of scoring tries, because they won't be able to do that against everyone, and they have to have a plan B.
I think you're unfairly tarnishing them with a brush, but I can see where you're coming from. We went back to what we knew is because they obviously knew in the context of Edinburgh that they could put their foot on Edinburgh's throat. Ultimately, Edinburgh's threats lie right in the breakdown and in the wide channels. Yeah. So your threat is Duan van der Merwe, and your threat then is that back row, which is Watson, Ritchie, Muncaster. If you don't give them the chances, Edinburgh don't really have nothing. They have an all right kicking game. So that's what we did. So the team can play the through the backs, whatever. Let's not tarnish them with that. There's some talented backs there. I think having Dan Edwards back for that game, he was out with a concussion. For this game, they can, and we've been out to Zebra and we've done it before. But the issue is we can't go out, play a different game, and then have to chase. We've gone from being the team that kicks the most in the league to team that doesn't kick barely anything. Right. So there's a clear evolution of what we're trying to do. It's just the execution is not there. I'm starting to question the effectiveness of Richard Fussell. I love Richard Fussell. I loved him as a player. Effectiveness
You're
of
only
him as
just starting
as
to
a
question the
coach.
effectiveness. How long has he been here now?
With I'm just being nice. I'm not Jamie. But it just that's sort of where we are. I think if I'm looking to Zebra, that's completely down to what personnel we have. Yeah, so I'm not worrying about Zebra at the minute. I think the big thing was getting the win, the confidence that will give us, confidence that will give the guys in camp, the guys on the return to play. Just huge. And I'm not carried away with it. Fully understand the context of where Edinburgh are. But the context of where we've been the last 2 weeks, it's huge for us. It really is, and I can't stress that enough.
I think the difference is, just to finish off on that you're in a position where you know who your next coach is, where they're in a position where they don't know who their current coach is.
We said this on our pod last year that we thought Sean Everett is a bit of a fraud. He's the most boring man in rugby anyway. We predicted, and Robbie's predicted that he won't be in a job come the Six Nations.
Yeah, no, I predicted that in pre-season URC.
I mean, I'll be honest, it does just show how shit Cardiff were last week, because we made them look really fucking good. And I think we said that thing is like, we made Edinburgh look good just by basically not being asked.
But that squad is set up like that, and they've never achieved anything.
Yeah,
and they don't finish above sixth.
they are the URC's Sale.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
it's crowd.
It's frustrating. And I do feel I do almost feel sorry for Ben Healy, because it was like the SIU lured him over to Edinburgh. I said, "I'll come and do this. We're going to make you a Scotland international." And he's got a pack that's playing like after fucking shit. He's the scapegoat. Gets thrown into the A games out of the Scotland squad. When he was in the Scotland squad, he was only there if Finn got injured. And he's like,
sorry, Lee, just before you go, to finish off, you mentioned about Johan Lloyd earlier. I forgot to bring this up in my bit. Is is really interesting. The players who are performing the best for their clubs right now are the ones that haven't been
Not
selected.
selected.
So Scarlett, yeah, Yohan Lloyd has made the most meters than any other regional player. So that's out the 4 clubs. Morgan Morris has made the most carries in the URC with 89, but he's also tops the chart with the most successful carries in the URC at 39.
Well, has
So
Ben Thomas lost that one? God.
he's on 34. So
because he was for like 2-3 weeks
yeah,
running the most of them.
then you've
Josh
got Teddy.
Cloud is playing out of his skin as well.
So yeah, Morgan Morris is playing with Tame Basham and Gareth Davis, are the league's joint leading try scorers of 4. Teddy Williams won off the tackle chart. Brody Coughlin just behind Dan Thomas. You know, so the players who are performing right now are the ones who aren't getting the plaudits internationally. I think.
Well, they
Morgan
know they're
Morris
not going to get
won.
injured. They know they can play because they don't have to go and do a Gatland training camp. And half of them will come away.
Can we also talk about that Duan van der Merwe penalty?
This is where I would hope Lee was a bit more like you and had the clip ready to go.
For
just
context,
so we could all look and laugh at it.
If I had £1 for every player I've seen push a referee out the way against the Ospreys,
accidentally though,
no, it wasn't accidentally. He fully puts his arms out and pushes him in the back. I don't care whether Duan's chasing the ball. You can't push a referee, right? You can't run down the street and say, "Oh, you didn't move out my way because I was running," right? You can't do that. He pushed him out the way. You got to accept that.
Would it be Would it be any different if it was a player?
Pardon?
If it was a player and not the ref, would it be called different?
Yeah, you can't push someone out the way if they've not if the player who's been pushed has not changed their line, right, and is entitled to stand there. You can't push someone off the ball, right? That's you can't do that, right? And Ryan Wilson was being a bit of a dick about it in comms. I mean, water's wet.
Yeah, water's wet, mate.
Sorry, I realised that as I said it. Then Ryan Wilson was being himself, but yeah, it's a penalty. It happened 2015 Ospreys versus Claremont.
I get it might be a penalty. A yellow card?
He didn't give me a yellow card.
I thought he'd give me a yellow card. I thought he would go for a yellow card.
The yellow card might have just been.
That's what I was.
You're basically not on the pitch anyway. You might as well go sit down for 10.
Yeah,
it
wasn't a yellow card.
I was watching it and doing the hoovering at the same time.
No, they joked in commentary.
That's
a yellow card, and then they actually called it back for a penalty. Then, so it's 100%. I don't know if people get this. It's not a penalty. 100%. I don't think the referee had a particularly good game. Griffin Colby, the made-up person, didn't have a good game. But yeah, that was 100% penalty, guys. Let's not be silly about this.
Well, let's move on to Cardiff Ulster. Do you want to talk about the second half first, Carly? Harley? I can't. Why?
Harley.
So hang on, my Carly, my Scarly, and my Harley. I don't even know who I am anymore. No, I'm gonna go with the first half because there's some things that need to be go off my chest, and I don't think the second half necessarily made up for it.
Okay.
Because that's yes, all right. All 19 of Ulster's points were scored when we were down a man. First of all, that's really fucking bad to concede. Like considering most teams train being a man down, to concede 19, fucking terrible. But in particular, that second Postlethwaite try, I have never seen. Like even peak Matthew Morgan would make more of an effort to get in the space or make a tackle than some of that. That was just fucking atrocious, especially compared to some of the other halves of we've had. It kind of just seemed like a 40-minute team at the moment, and it just so happened that the 40 minutes they played, they scored more points than Ulster did. But so that's my rant anyway. Like just some of that tackle. Some of those attempts at tackling were woeful. The scrum looks pretty good. I don't know how we've only got 57% scrum success. I think we gave away a free kick. That was it, really. So I don't know where that's come from. I'm not saying we're good, but
Ulster are statistically the worst scrum in the league, by the way.
Yeah, they are. And that's not surprising. I mean, I think Tom O'Toole's being converted to a loose head to try and cover the fact that Ireland can't produce any loose heads because they've basically relied on Cian Healy and Andrew Porter for the last however long.
No. Save that for the Six Nations.
Yeah.
They will all say the Irish pods are saying the exact same thing as that, right? It's basically because there's so much reliance on Andrew Porter. No
This
one's
isn't
going to get
this isn't off the
ball.
ball. Calm down.
Anyway, but yes, that first half was just bloody shit. But the rocket the arse they got for the second half was just absolutely fantastic because that second half performance was a lot better. The defense tightened up a bit. There's some nice tries. I think Ewan Stevens deservedly man play of the match because he was just really, really good.
When he dives for that try, though, did you think like just when I looked at it the first time in full speed, I thought there's no need to. You would just bloody show when you see it in slow motion and you see it after, you go, okay, yeah, I get why. But to me, he was showboating, and then I watched it back in slow motion. I thought, actually, that's a hell of a
to be honest, that isn't even the most pointless dive in the because that it just looks great. The most pointless dive has got to be the Mason Grady one a bit earlier. And he sort of goes to slide in, and the grass isn't quite as wet as he thought it was. So he stops 5 meters out, and he gets pushed into touch. Oh, mate, shoot, you can bounce. Like, you're a big lad. You could have bounced that guy.
It's peak rugby league, though, that Ewan Stevens drive.
Yeah, but it's so good. I said, if I was better with photoshopping tools, I definitely would have had his face on a thing from Wicked with him defying gravity. But I'll just make
which I'm going to go and watch on Thursday, by the way.
Was it out? I'm going to take Bex to see it.
No, I'm going to watch a stage version. Stage one is in Cardiff this week. So,
we watched the London one not too long ago. It's quite good.
Yeah. Anyway, back to rugby, Harley.
Yeah, and then we sort of held on. Ulster just couldn't seem to break us down. Then like that last, I think Rugby Pass has it. The last 10 minutes, Ulster had 85% possession, just hammering, and we were just pushing them back. And then they'd make some ground, and then we'd push them right back again. That was probably the best I've seen our defensive system look. And, it was almost making up for players being out of position and things. The aerial game started working a lot better. And, it was, considering how the last game against Ulster finished, actually the fact we pulled away with the win, I'm quite happy with. Don't necessarily think we necessarily deserved it, but then I don't think it also deserved last time. And rugby goes up way sometimes.
It's almost
the annoying thing is that really fucked my prediction on the prediction list.
But it's almost the complete opposite of what you did last year. We're losing it in the last couple of minutes, and then you're trying to lose it in the first half, and then give yourself a chance to come back and win it in the second now.
And the other thing I want to flag up, obviously, because rightly so, Sheedy's had a lot of stick, particularly from myself, about his goal kicking, and 3 from 3, and 2 of those were quite difficult kicks. I don't think that necessarily disproves what I've said, but I'm grateful that he seems to have found a groove for kicking, and hopefully he can. This gap now isn't going to make him lose it again.
I think Cardiff somewhat redeemed themselves in the second half. Obviously, the defence was a lot tighter. Clearly, the changes that they made was bringing on Botham and Young. Who were the starting flankers? Is it Thomas and Mann?
Ben Donnell and Dan Thomas.
Donnell, Lawrence, and Thomas.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It really.
The thing is, it's what we were starting with in the season, and
it just didn't work. Like, I think Ulster's back row, especially that first half, were brilliant. Izachukwu was brilliant again.
He's some player.
He is so good. But I just think that, I questioned in the week about Mackenzie Martin playing for the Rags, right? And that wasn't out of me being a dick because Martin's playing for the Rags. I was like, well, this kid we've been told brings all this physicality. And then I just didn't see that from that back row in the first half. And, you rightly said that Lawrence has been playing really well. It'd be stupid to drop him. But then I didn't see enough from Lawrence in that first half, especially.
Yeah. I think the problem with some of our players is it might have been games too far. And I think the Edinburgh game was a game too far for some of them. They needed a week rest and stuff. And I think it was a lighter training week as well.
I actually think that the game improved when Ben Thomas went off. I think Rory Jennings played really well when he came on.
I thought he played really well against Edinburgh as well.
I thought Grady was okay. Wasn't probably his best game. Ewan Stevens, we touched on, Winnett was decent. He's carrying a lot more. So he's on 74 carries. He's like the 3rd top carrier in the league. which says a lot about how Cardiff want to play. I still have major questions about the defensive system, though, especially for that. Like I said, that Postlethwaite try was just that's not acceptable at
That's
any
the first
level.
possible way to try. We should add as well
Sorry,
because he did get a brace. But yeah,
first
I
one.
agree. I'm fully with you on that.
Watching him run that arc, it was painful. Like, it reminded me of playing in Div 5 West Central when you're shagged after about 40 minutes. But
Don't go knocking Division 5, man.
It's where I cut my teeth, mate. It's where I cut my teeth.
Through that, it was going to say it reminded me of some of the things the twos league I'm currently in with Old Penartians.
But yeah, so
and you're shagged after 5 seconds.
But again, I think Cardiff they found a way to coin that term. Again, it'll give them some confidence. I think their biggest thing now is Evan Lloyd. Actually, he needs to have a big autumn with Wales if he plays, because he was poor. He was the weak. I think he was the weakest part of that Cardiff team on Saturday night. He looked well off it, and that's coming from Cardiff fans, not just me. I'm simply reading.
Oh no, I agree with you. It looked so much better when Dav Hughes came on. Like the line-out sort of sorted itself out a lot more.
Dav Hughes, with all the greatest respect to him, he's like a squad player.
He is rightly our fourth choice hooker.
Yeah,
let's put it this way. But his line-out throwing and his set piece work, and actually
he's been so much better
really well as well.
And he was good around the park. Yeah, you're right, good around the park.
The bit I like about Dav Hughes is he gives everything. He's a fully committed player.
Yeah,
and and I think sometimes you need something like that. I think in the first half, that's what Cardiff were probably missing, was somebody going, right, follow me. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run at them and hit something, and if they've got a ball, bonus.
But there was no, there was no Belcher, clearly, like that leadership. But I just think Evan Lloyd, he just looked off the pace. That's all it was. He just looked.
Yeah.
He looked out of his depth. And when Dav Hughes came on, you could see Dav Hughes has cut his teeth at Jersey, he's cut his teeth at Scarlets, he's had to bide his time. But you can see that experience has made him. But it's almost like what Sam Parry was when he came to us. When he first came, he was that third choice hooker, and you could just see it made him a better player. And you got to think that Evan Lloyd, actually, is he better off currently being the second choice behind Belcher, but constantly getting 30, 35 minutes every week? Has he been thrust into that starting spot, into the Wales spot too quickly? The answer is yes, obviously.
I think that's what we were all saying. I think we're saying that with a lot of the Cardiff players who got selected, was that is probably a bit too soon. I think like Big Mac, it's still a bit too soon. I don't think he's quite ready to get used to that.
There's some 14-year-old saying Peter's shitting himself because he's got a phone call from Martin Williams saying you're in the squad.
It's that sort of thing. I again, I know we can't stay. We can't use this as an excuse for Evan Lloyd, but he did only convert last season, and then he wasn't getting the regular game time to get used to the game situations, and then the club captain and basically the guy who in theory is going to be starting most of those games, he gets a nasty injury. Evan Daniel, who is sort of probably he's probably joint second with Evan Lloyd, but is a slightly more experienced head who you could have for these things. He's injured as well, and then Dav Hughes had played a lot. Then Evan Lloyd and just come back, and it was just a really shit situation for him. But his line at work still needs huge amounts of work, which is saying that has been thrown at all three of the Wales squad hookers over the years.
Yeah.
So let's just hope it gets better.
So let's park that one and move on to Connacht Dragons. And I mean, up until now, Dragons have actually played okay. They played really well, and they played some really good rugby in patches. And then this game just seemed to go out the window. They just didn't feel like there was much of anything there in attack or defence. And so I know Jamie's not here, and if anybody wants to listen to a proper Dragon talk about the Dragons game, then they're welcome to listen to Dragon's Lair. But for me this week, yeah, I don't know where. Well, I know where I think the issue with the Dragons is, which is at 10. I think that's where they're missing some key players. They've got a stacked back row. The pack is quite solid. Some of the outside backs are half decent. I think it is that 10 position where they just, you know, and even putting an experienced 10 in there, as we've seen in the past for Sam Davis. Sam Davis struggled and struggled and struggled, goes to France and is player of the year. So, your thoughts on that Dragons game, gents?
Like, it would be nice to have seen. I said it would actually be quite nice to see Sam Davis come to the scene, but it was a similar thing with JJ Hanrahan. The Dragons looked so much better when he played, and so much worse when they didn't. I think as well with Dane Blacker as well. I just don't think he was particularly great. I don't think he has been whenever he's played this season. I feel like the drop off between Rodri and him is quite noticeable, particularly on the game management side of things.
I haven't watched it.
And it was that second I think it was the second Connacht try. If that second Ulster try was soft for defence of Cardiff, this was not even an attempt at defence, to be honest. It's really disappointing because you'd have hoped they'd have. I don't think anyone, other than me, would have thought they'd win out in Connacht. But you kind of wanted them to fire a few more shots and that Basham try was perfectly fine. It was an all right try, but you're just not seeing that. Seems to be more of a spark where they exclude the 10 more than because of the 10. And I don't think it helps that you're looking at their main 10 choices. You've got Will Reid, who's still cutting his teeth and was playing for Newport RC this weekend. Then you've got Lloyd Evans, who spent most of his last later years at Gloucester being pushed to fullback, so a fullback could play 10. Kai Evans, who's a fullback who can sort of play 10, and Angus O'Brien, who's a fullback who can play 10. It's not exactly that sort of general, which I think it's covered when Rodri's on the pitch. So I think he can take on a lot of that game management. But when you've got someone like Blacker, where that's probably one of the weaker sides of his game, that's again, it just sort of ruins it all there. I think Dragons are suffering from they've got, they've brought in a load of players and not really been able to use them because of injuries. It does make you wonder if the PRB are going to bring in a thing with Wales selection similar to what you have in France and Japan, where signing contracts, the contracts become dependent on you being fit, and if you're not fit at the start of the season, then your contract gets cancelled, which would be incredibly harsh, but.
Yeah, it's been used.
If you're operating but a squad's as small as ours, you can't afford to be carrying players who can't play.
James,
we've seen it with them. Sorry, I was going to say just add the thing with loose heads at the Dragons, tight heads and locks at the Ospreys, and hookers at Cardiff. It just screws you over.
James, your thoughts on the Dragons game?
Yeah, I watched. No, I didn't watch it. I can't say. But I can just comment on the fact that Connacht away is up there with the hardest in the league. I think listening to Dragons Lair, it was a frustrating night and everything they say. What I will say is you can't start Cameron Jones in a place against Finlay Beelum. It's not fair. And Cameron Jones is a great prospect at Loosehead, players his size, players his size and his dimensions, so to say, don't come around very often. And speaking to guys who played at 20s with him, he is bloody good at scrummaging. Like, he loves his scrums, but he's played about 4 minutes of professional rugby. He's played less than a full game of professional rugby. So, putting him up against Finlay Beelum, you're asking yourself for trouble. I think Dragons will be really disappointed they didn't fire more shots. So it's good to see Tame Basham doing well, though.
Well, the whole of the back row is,
But back row's never been the Dragons' problem.
No, exactly. It's
The same with centre, actually. They've never had a bad set of centres. It's a bit like Scarlets, actually. They're very similar in that sense, in that they've always had good centres and they've always had good back rows. That's never been their problem. Their problem is they've never been consistent enough at 10. I don't think that they've got the strength and depth at 9. I think if you're Di Flanagan, you start looking at getting Morgan Lloyd in, who's at Pooler. I think you not to necessarily start him, but I think you start bringing him in the squad.
It's either that or you're hoping Che Hope kicks on to where people.
I think Lloyd is better than Che Hope for me at the minute. But yeah, I just think, they will have a better squad list in block 2. You have Steve Cummins, who will be there as a constant. Solomon Funaki coming in.
You've got a couple of players coming back from injury.
Yeah, I think they're very much in that Ospreys mold where you've got players coming back in. So the hope is now that, Di Flanagan himself, and he said this you go listen to Dragon's Lair, but they said, you lose the first 6 games and it becomes really hard to salvage your season, and they've won one, and and even then that wasn't a convincing win. That was victory snatched right at the depth, right? It wasn't a comfortable win. So you've got, if you're a Dragons fan, you've got to be like, right, where's this next win coming from? Is it in Europe? Is it in the league? So it's tough going for them, but I think they are in a better place than they were last year. Unfortunately, I think everyone else is in a better place than they were last year around them.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. We spoke about this on the URC. It's not a case of the competitiveness in the league now. It runs from probably 3 to 12. That mid-table has got a lot bigger, where there's a lot more competitive sides, and you cannot write anyone off. You can't write off the Dragons. You can't write off Zebra, because they will, if you don't take those teams seriously, they will do some damage. So yeah, there isn't an easy game. Okay, we'll talk about next blocks and all of that kind of stuff in a minute. But if you are liking what you're hearing and see, I mean, it's difficult for you to like what you're seeing. I mean, I look at the screen and I go, yeah, I've seen a lot prettier faces. But if you're liking what you're seeing and you're enjoying watching us on YouTube, please do subscribe on YouTube. Makes a massive difference to us. And like and share us on the social medias, because it gives us a warm feeling in the heart when we wake up in the morning knowing that somebody's listened to us wittering on about rugby overnight. It's a good feeling. So let's move on to play of the week, gents. So Jamie's play of the week was quite restricted. It was Basham's try, because that was really the only. I mean, it wasn't difficult to find something else in the game for him to choose. James, what did you go with?
Well, because I'm not allowed to pick Jack Morgan from minute 0 to minute 80. I will pick him smashing Duan van der Merwe in the first half and sending him back about 20 meters.
It's such a good thing that Leah's just basically
it's really great that Swansea-born Jack Morgan was able to smash back Duan van der Merwe, much like Pencoed-born Sam Costello. Thrives for the Scarlets.
Okay. Harley, what was yours?
So I want to do an honourable mention for my well, I'm going to end up just doing a sort of weekly hooker watch, which is because we do it for the hope for our team, but I do want to credit this Ulster play. So about 46 minutes in, they've got a line out about 5 minutes out as a result of the Mason Grady being pushed into the touch. And they throw, and it's a quick ball to the prop on the 5 meter line, who then pass it back to the hooker, who then does a really fucking good job of clearing the ball, which I just think that's brilliant. Like, as trick plays go, I love it if it gets forwards kicking. But my player of the week has got to be that Ewan Stevens well, the whole try actually, I think it's just brilliant. You've got a really nice solid driving maul, with some very crisp passing out wide, and then a spectacular finish in the corner, topped off with Sheedy nailing the conversion, and that's sort of what kicks the comeback actually on really.
Yeah, I will be fair. It was a cracking track. Yeah, it was good. So mine again. I was lucky. I was blessed with a couple of options. But like my number 2 bit in the game, there was a moment in the second half where Manus van der Merwe, who I think is just playing out the skin. He's like Ken Owens with hair. The guy's amazing.
Former Osprey, Manus van der
imagine.
Merwe.
Yeah, you missed the trick there, mate.
Can you please start developing your own players? That would be nice.
Okay, Mr. Kettle. So
you can't claim him. He played for you for like what, half a game?
But I think he played 1 game for you, didn't he? Anyway,
and it's on a way.
The ball kind of comes back loose from a turnover, I think it is. He picks the ball up, almost gives a fake dummy one way, and just hurls it between his legs backwards straight into the arms of Eddie James, which was a lovely little kind of thing that it almost looks like that's what he meant to do, but we all know he was just throwing it somewhere. But my actual play of the game was the Josh McLeod try for a couple of different reasons. So we've built our reputation on playing the game in the centres and out wide. That's how we do it. We work off turnover ball. We work off broken play. What we're not known for is horrible stuff up front. So to see Josh McLeod, first of all, to see Josh McLeod go over and score a try, again, has been fantastic because he's had like 3 seasons of just injury after injury after injury. And to see him, I guess his 4th game now without the slightest little bit is really good.
Still time.
I know. But, so to see him go over off the back of a driving maul, back of a driving line out was fantastic. And then the way he scored the try, where he just kind of like goes over on the side and almost in that pose bit, just kind of, I don't know, it was a bit of fun. It just kind of made me feel like we're a bit more confident than probably we are. So, but that was my one. I think the guy totally deserved it, and it was nice to see us score a try in a different way to what we normally would be. Put it that way. So those will be available on social media. So I'm going to commit now, right? I'm going to commit to having them available on social media Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock. That will be available on social media because I haven't done it so far. I was good last week. I did it. I had it all prepped and all that kind of stuff. But I've had my son's birthday and not feeling great and stuff. So go on, Harley.
Just to let people know, the play of the week last week was Scarlett's Defence.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it was slim pickings from everyone else. So
yeah.
But it was.
I thought that Dragon's double hit might have had a decent shot. That's what I voted for.
It came close. I think one was like 30%, one was 40%. So it was. I think you boys just need to get your supporters to vote more. You need to get a bit of a bandwagon together, get some rallies, and start kind of shouting.
I mean, I'll be honest. That game, I was inches away from picking an Edinburgh moment, and then went no because they weren't exactly great either. It was just a terrible.
Yeah, if you could
game.
find one, let me know. That isn't assaulting a referee.
Okay, let's move on to kind of. We've obviously got no games to preview this week, so we're going to have a little look back on that first block and a little look forward onto the next block of games coming. So let's do Dragons first. Who wants to talk through Dragons? Somebody talk through Dragons for me.
Fucking shit. No, I think
so I'm gonna go with the sort of some of the slightly more positive. So the performances are starting to look better. They're definitely in more games, Connacht game aside. So, that's good. Russ Petty put a tweet out and basically sort of said, so after this first block of URC fixtures, these are the equivalent points of fixtures and how many. So Dragons are now +3. So they managed to get 3 more points than the same 6 fixtures last year. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily count for home and away, apart from the derbies, because they're the only games we do play home and away in the season. I think Shane Lewis-Hughes is looking possibly the signing of the season for Welsh Rugby. Like he's just, it's the new lease of life, and I'm so happy. It's he's doing so well. And then there's a noticeable thing of the physicality. You tend not to see their heads drop. And again, I'm caveating this aside from Connacht, which just seems to have been a game too far for them. But if this is their only game like that, then we can just call it a mulligan and be done with it. It's still disappointing. They should be on 3 wins, really. They should have won the Sharks and Lions games. And that's it. It's all down to poor game management and a woeful attack that they didn't.
And I think even in those 2 games, you're looking at 2 or 3 key moments in those games. You're not looking at, they weren't battered and beaten and got a lucky call or anything. There was 1 or 2 plays where they'd either missed a tackle or against the Sharks, 2 passes go to hand, and that's a bit of a kick in. So yeah, I don't think they're as far away as that last result against Connacht suggests, but I think the damage that it's done is in confidence, and we all know how effective confidence can be when you're playing a game. So Dragons' next fixtures are,
it's going to be us and then Europe, so it's going to be that's a cap.
Yeah.
Which is probably the worst one for them. Probably one of the worst of their remaining fixtures for them to come back off of a defeat.
Jamie's going to be
only
delighted.
Because of the psychological thing of us somehow, hook by hook, by crook, even when they've been by far the better side, we've pulled it out. Whether that's going to continue this season, I don't know. Obviously, for quite a clear reason, I do hope it happens, but it's and there must be something in their mind thinking, 69 points and a half. I thought it was 49 points and a half. That's like that. The point in how bad their defense was that game. Cardiff were one of the top attacking sides in the URC up until about round 14, and based on tries scored, and it was purely this game dragging the average up.
Well, I mean the elephant in the room with the Dragons at the minute is Di Flanagan, and because everyone likes Di Flanagan, and everyone's got a lot of respect for him. He comes across as a nice guy. He is a nice guy when you meet him. He treats his players well. He looks after his players. Does he need to do something a bit different, or is he in danger of going?
There's the whole coaching, I think, apart from Philo Tier and Ryan Chambers, I think Matt O'Brien is equally as in danger. I actually don't think Di Flanagan's that terrible a head coach. I can't see what Di Flanagan's doing wrong, because if we say, right, the defense was really bad last year, but they brought in a defense coach that's clearly made a difference. So now the attack is really bad, and they've done everything else around it to make it better. They've brought in another 10. They've
signed a winger.
They've got a big Aussie centre. So the natural step is, well, Matt O'Brien needs to step aside and someone fresh come through. So yeah, I think as much as Di Flanagan is probably in trouble, I think that Matt O'Brien is equally to blame.
Harley, any thoughts on? Obviously, we're not going to dwell on it, but
I mean, the whole nice guy argument, I think, is just a bit of a nothing point, really. Like I did my, doing my PhD. I worked with, one of the other PhD students, really nice guy, but I would never voluntarily work in a lab with him again, because he was fucking heinous to work with. He was he's messy, couldn't be asked, whatever. But he was a great guy to go to the pub with. Equally, I know he would never want to work with me again, because I'm a full-on type A. Everything must be done so in the right way. Do not fucking touch my pipettes, or I will fucking kill you. like that, like, and I appreciate I that sort of difficult person to work with. I always work best when I'm sort of just shut up in a room on my own. I can just get on with it. But
That's the most
like
bizarre.
we both like each other. We go out, we still go and have a pint every night, and we laugh about how much we used to piss each other off. Because because just because someone's a nice guy doesn't mean they're the best person to work with, or they're the right person for the job.
This is the most bizarre insight into your background that I think we've ever had, Harley. and somehow we
I'm
started with
still not as
Flanagan.
bizarre as some of the stuff that comes up on Central.
Yeah. Right. We'll so James, I know you gotta go, mate. So let's quickly run through Ospreys, where the Ospreys are so far, and what you can expect from them in the next few games. In particular, So we'll just frame this now. Well, over the Saturday before Christmas, the December the 21st,
21st, yeah.
yeah. So we're hopefully going to be doing some promo stuff around that, and that is a huge game. But what have you made of it so far, and what are you looking forward to?
Obviously, surface wise, really frustrating. 2 out of whatever it is. We would have wanted a better return, especially targeting that Dragons game. I think they clearly weren't expecting what to happen at the Bulls game. That did. So on the surface, really disappointing. I don't think there's that much cause to be too downbeat. Ultimately, we've got a better return against the teams that we played. We've got a better return on points than last season. Obviously, you take away the home and away factor. The good thing about block 2, I think, is we're going to be welcoming back long-term injuries. So Reece Henry, Will Griff, Rhys Davis, James Fender. I know Morgan Morse might make the end of that block. He had a 10-week hamstring injury. So you've just got more opportunities for guys like, Tom Florence had a really good block. So yeah, I think there's, a real sense of excitement that can come from block 2. We've got some really good games in it. Zebra away is a really good test of where we are. Montpellier away, obviously the Lions at home is always a good game, especially with how well they're going. Montpellier away, which will essentially be like a remake of The Longest Yard, because it'll be played in a prison somewhere. And then obviously Scarlets at home, Cardiff away on New Year's Day then. So, it's a really exciting and diverse block, whereas this one felt like it was just being constantly hitting the knees with a baseball bat. You had the Dragons away first, which is always a one we slip up on. Then you had it's just some really tough ones. You got Bulls, Ulster, Munster, all in the space of a couple of weeks. So yeah, really tough.
The important thing is you did no worse or no better. You got the exact same number of match
exactly
points out of it as well. So
yeah,
actually, on the face of it, you're still
I'm
there or thereabouts. Because actually, if you
happy.
take into account all the other teams, there's not actually a huge amount of shuffling, with the exception of Munster, and is the only one who really moves a huge amount based on the point change.
Yeah, I think pending. I think the big one is obviously Jack Morgan and Adam Beard and Dewi Lake coming back injury free from Wales. They're the big ones. I can somewhat cope without Owen Watkin. It's and maybe Tom, because I think Gary Phillips has gone well, but yeah, we need them back fit. So I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. Enjoy the rest of your reviews. If you want my quick summaries of Scarlets, Scarlets, all fairness to them, they've won games which they didn't do last year. On the face of it, they sorted out scrum, they've sorted out line out. They've cleaned up the bits they needed to. What they need to do now is do that against the top teams in block 2. They need to do. I know they've done it against Bulls, and that's what you're going to say, but they need to do it consistently. One swallow does not make a summer. Cardiff, again, I think I've said it multiple times, need to sort the defensive system. They need to find a settle on the back row. And yeah, just I think once they sort that, and they could pull an 80-minute game together, they'll be fine. Gents, have a good one. I shall see you soon.
All right. Cheers, James.
Yep.
All right. Good. We get to slag off the Ospreys now. No, I'm joking. So,
Oh, just watch them play. That'll do it.
So, yeah, let's do Cardiff then. Harley, what have you made of Cardiff so far this year, mate?
So obviously those first 2 games, huge positives. You know, we sort of got bounced back of that really disappointing draw against Zebra, which was a game we really should have lost last season. And we finally broke our long-standing hoodoo against Scarlets, although the return of fixture, I'm really annoyed we didn't break the home hoodoo. So that, you know, that's got to go for another year now. Most you're right. I think, you know, Josh McNally's been excellent. He's had a lot of extra grunt. I think he has been starting to run out of steam a bit, and then injuries to Seb Davis, and then I think Thornton's had questionable fitness that sort of made him and Teddy's play a lot longer than he should have. A few too many missed tackles. As I alluded to with the Sheedy thing, his goal kicking has been a bit of an issue. Would it necessarily helped us win a couple of games? Not on the kicks he missed, but maybe it would have encouraged us to go for goal a couple more times just for keeping momentum. And, you know, when we were banging our head up against walls, I think that's one thing I was really disappointed at, was our play against whenever we have a man advantage. I don't think we necessarily made the most of it. But I mean, I'll be honest, that is a very Welsh rugby thing.
But you're still in 8th. You know, you finished that first.
So I mean, so going through the positives. So we've got 10 more match points than we did last season from 6 games. Great, do that another block, and you know, we're looking pretty good. What I would say is 10 points would put us in the exact same league position, because that's how far off we were the chasing pack. But the important thing is we've got these points, and it's, you know, helping us thing. I think we're seeing a lot more of what Matchup wants to be, for right or for wrong. I think defensive system, you know, now managing their full time. I do think a big part of the issue is necessarily maybe more technical individual errors as much as it is system. Because I think in that Ulster game, it sort of pulled together and it looked a lot better. And there were times and thing. My big worry is, though, we've burned through a lot of our home fixtures. And you know, this is where we're going to really have to try and pull out big wins and wins away. And, you know, we've got our typical Leinster away during the Six Nations just to make it really fucking hard for us, because ever since that time we beat them, they want to make sure there's absolutely no fucking advantage at all.
When did you actually beat them?
It was not last season before last. So it was the 22.
So you're not holding grudges or anything? You're not holding it in your back pocket for a bit too long or nothing?
Nah, not Sharks 35-0 long anyway. So it's going to be, I think this next box can be quite interesting. So obviously, I said Dragons have improved a lot, and that's a team we've managed to sort of have a bit of a hoodoo over. So it'll be interesting to see if we can pull through on merit, because I think we are still overall a better team than Dragons. I think, you know, we're probably that little bit further along the path. So, you know, I'd expect to see both of those, which would, again, you know, that takes us up to 4 of our 6 derbies by Boxing Day, which just seems weird. Like, I would like a much better spread, same with the home games. Then hosting the Cheetahs at home, which is a blast from the past, because I think that was one of my... Because I remember, like, going to see the very first Cheetahs game and thinking, fuck me, that guy's massive. And then found out he was the centre. And then I saw the pack come past, and I think it was when they had JP Dupree, who was 6'10", go through, and he just dwarfed the entire. And yeah, it's magical. We got was it Leon away? Leon away, because apparently EPLC contracts say no French side can enter the Welsh capital anymore, so we've always got to play them away. Yeah, that's good. Then we got our festive derbies, Dragons at Dave Parade on Boxing Day, and then our annual New Year's Day disappointment, because it's usually pissing down with rain, and it superpowers the Ospreys. Morgan Morse will be back.
We live in Wales,
get man of the match and get like 4 tries. It'll be sad.
But we live in Wales. We have to expect it to rain. That's why we were the ones
Yeah, I
that
know. We
first built
expected
a
it to rain, but
stadium with a
no one was
roof.
expecting Bridgend.
No, no, I'll be honest with you. No, that was
Yeah.
a shock.
And then we finish up so then we finish up our European block with going away to Perpignan again because French team can't travel. And then a really exciting thing, because the thing I love about Europe is playing teams we don't normally play. So we're hosting Connacht. On the plus side, at least it's a home game I love. I do genuinely love Connacht at home. I just think it's always a good game. And then before Six Nations, we're hosting Sharks, which could be an
I think
interesting one
that's-
to see how they play, because I haven't looked at how their European fixtures are lining up. Because I think if they've got a home game that's second, if they're in that week we're playing Connacht, they've got a home game as well. I could see maybe getting a slightly changed squad, which might be in our favour.
Well,
And I'm hoping, because there's a week gap after it, I'm hoping we don't lose our Wales internationals, because there have been they've been two very fortunate gap weeks for the Autumn and Six Nations, which is where a week where Gatland would normally call up all his Wales players.
Yeah, and then another 30 odd to hold bags and do NAFL. So I think the key game for you is that Sharks game. I do. It's certainly in the league, because they're starting to fire.
Sharks are pulling up. They're pulling up trees as well, because they're second now on the most points gained with 7, and they've got a game in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, their game in hand is a local derby. I can't remember which one of the teams it's against, but I imagine it's one.
I think it's Lions,
because they were terrible. They came bottom of the South African Shield last season, like very much bottom. But yeah, they're starting to hit their straps a bit. I'm hoping maybe it's some, but I think that it'll be. But it depends really. Basically, if the Sharks box are expected to play the European fixtures, then they might be rested for that game as part of their next stand-down period. But I'm not holding out hope for that. It would be nice to keep the 4 in a row streak against the Sharks, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So how about you with Sharks? How are you feeling? So I will caveat, because of that Cardiff win, they are down 3 points something. But looking at how everything else is going, I'd say that I wouldn't be worried about that at all.
Well, I said in pre-season, and I'm sticking to it, that if we get to the end of the first block and things are going well, then we just bin off Europe. You know, we sacrifice Europe for this year.
There's one game you have to put an effort in for, though. You cannot lose the Black Line again. You will not be allowed to come on this podcast and not get ribbed to shit for it.
No, but I think we gotta, we've been fortunate with injuries. Last season we got peppered with injuries, and then Gatland took 10 players for Wales, and we were really struggling. We were struggling anyway, and then everything just kind of hit us. So yeah, I think in this international break, I'm hoping Fafita will be back at some point in that break, and that just gives you so many headaches in the back row. Who do you not put on the park in that back row? And then that kind of then makes it a bit easier going forward. I would genuinely put Carwyn Tuipulotu in for most of the European fixtures and just say to him, right, okay, go make the number 8 shirt yours, and give him a run of games. And then I
know this is a bone of contention with you guys. I still think he's better off I still think he'd be better off putting him as a 6. I know it doesn't necessarily matter if you put him in a scum, but I feel he plays more the 6 role, and I'd keep someone like Plumtree as your 8.
Yeah, I just think if he was gonna make that breakthrough, every time we see him play, and we like him, we as a pod, the Saucepans really like him as a pod, and it's frustrating to see a player with that much potential not really force his way through. And then you look at who we've actually got there in that back row. And we said last year that we were rotating too much, and now we're like, well, can we rotate a little? Can we have him in? So, hang on.
Look, I hope you know what your fixtures are coming up, because Scarlett's website apparently says you've got no fixtures coming up for the season.
Sorry, say that again, mate. I was dying there for a second.
I said I hope you know what the games are for your block, because according to the Scarlett's website, there are no fixtures for them.
Yeah, to me, screw Europe. Like I said, genuinely, it's great for money. But we need. I don't think we've got the squad to focus on it.
I'd like to maybe make a bit of a caveat for that, because right, you've got an A game and maybe a game against the SRC teams coming up.
Something like that, yeah.
Right, yeah. But then you've got one URC game. Then you've got basically nearly 3 weeks off.
3 weeks.
Oh no, it's only going to be 2, because you're playing on the Saturday before, not the Boxing Day. But that's another block where you've got the up and now they're down resting, and then you have 2 games and then you're down again, and you always want to maybe not necessarily go completely bin off Europe, but maybe for the home games put the effort in, because then you're at least keeping your players at match fit. Like, because I think one of the hardest things, particularly watching Cardiff last season, was during that Six Nations block, was trying to see them get up for a performance and not having a game for a couple of weeks, and then that next game, then it almost
I totally know what you mean.
Couldn't get themselves up. Whereas I feel like if you've got the momentum, you're carrying on.
Yeah,
I said maybe you rest. Maybe you don't start your full, your full noise team that you'd start against Ospreys, or maybe you say you start that for, because who's your first fixture back?
First fixture back is Glasgow away, if I remember correctly.
I mean, I'd be tempted to maybe go for a slightly more changed side, and then you slowly bring in the better players as it goes on.
I'm just going to check. I think round 7 we play. Yeah, round 7. So end of September we play Glasgow away, and so that is a game that you want to be fully loaded for. You don't go.
Well,
away to Glasgow
fully loaded, or you've got to accept that not many teams beat Glasgow in Glasgow. But do you maybe use that as a thing, and then you slowly bring your players back in, so you ramp them up? It's just the other way I think you might play it.
Well, I'm hoping that in the second set of fixtures, if we win the derbies, then that puts us in a great place. And then if we can nick anything out of Glasgow, I'm just going to check again now. So we play Glasgow, then we go into the Ospreys game, which I'll talk about in a minute. Then we've got Dragons, and then we've got Edinburgh at home. That Edinburgh at home has got to be a game that we target now. That's got to be, it's at home, plus it's Edinburgh. That's got to be a win. So you're already looking at, end of January and targeting a game there, and then well, actually, we all know that derby games could be, nobody can really say which way derby games go on the day. So then you're down to Glasgow and Edinburgh. So for me, it's about focusing on the league this year. In the last couple of seasons, at this time of the year, we're only just starting to really get going, and then we go, okay, well, we focus on Europe. Then we'll put everything into Europe, and we have a couple of decent games, and then we screw it up in the quarterfinals or whatever. I think it's the other way around now. Maybe we've got to focus on the URC and say, right, this is where we're going to do the business this year. So just to go back briefly and talk about the Osprey Scarlets game. So we are talking with Ospreys and Scarlets about doing special stuff for that game that we can't tell anyone about yet because we haven't agreed anything and what have you. But that game's going to be massive. And yeah, stay tuned on that one. What I am looking for, and this is for all sides now, Scarlets, Ospreys, and everybody else, is I want to start doing stuff at home games. So you might have seen what Big M does for Scarlets. So having somebody to go to a home game, whether it's at Cardiff Arms Park or Rodney Parade or whatever, and just do like a vlog for the day. So I want to kind of get all of that up and running and probably do the first ones at the Osprey Scarlets. I think it'd be a good way to kick it off. But the vibe around that game already is starting to build. You know, it's already starting to be spoken about in terms of, right, will we have, it's not from a Scarlet's point of view, supporters aren't talking about will we have more supporters there than the Ospreys. Scarlet supporters are talking about how many more supporters will we have at the library compared to the Ospreys. So yeah, I will leave that one with the Ospreys supporters to sort themselves out and buy tickets and get down there, because yeah, they're going to need to. They're seriously going to need to this year. Right. Okay.
Whilst Lee's killing all his lungs again.
You know,
I think that's an important thing for all the region, for all the main games, to be fair, is to just try and feel like, particularly for most Ospreys home games, like if you want to say how good St. Helens is going to be, I think now's the time for them to start saying, well, here you go. We're not waiting to move to Swansea to get 6, 7, 8,000 people in. We're going to do it from now.
Yeah.
And all the things, like, you know, they haven't got the excuse of, like, one really bizarre comment I saw Hugh Catboy shared with me is someone commenting saying, why on earth would anyone come to watch this game when it's on free-to-air TV? It's like, well, it does show just a rough psyche that £22 is apparently too expensive for a ticket, which actually is an absolute fucking bargain compared to most places.
Yeah.
But it's on free-to-air TV. But if it wasn't on free-to-air TV, you'd be moaning.
You'd be absolutely mental. Yeah. Why isn't rugby on the rugby
discussion we had last week? So if the Ospreys games are going to be on that prime 3 o'clock Saturday slot, head down. It's not really an excuse not to. So anyway, that was a little bit of very ad hoc filler. Whilst you decided to cough up what was left of your lungs, which is pleasant, it not being me for a change.
You know, I was rough a couple of weeks ago. I missed one a couple of weeks ago because I was rough, and I haven't properly recovered from it, and it's just hanging around and hanging around and hanging around. Every time I go, I'm feeling better now, and it comes back and goes, no, you're not. No, have some of this. So that's where I am on that one. So let's finish off tonight then with a chat about Prediction League. We're not going to talk about international fixtures. We're going to say that for next week, and there's a couple of other things we'll throw in next week as well. So let's just stick to Prediction League for this week and how amazing Jamie is at predicting Dragons' losses.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it in reverse order for our private group one. I might give you some details to post out about the FC Prediction League. Needless to say, we are both middling in the Super Brew one. I'm literally just above you. I think I'm about a point ahead. So in last place is James, who basically just wants to be silly and predict misery on the other teams. Then it's you, Lee, from only a small jump up to 48. Then it's me on 50. So again, very, very tight in this sort of bottom. Yeah, but then after this week, Jamie's shot to 56 points. Very, very astute predictions. So
but
it's go with some of his predictions now, which have led into 4. So the Scarlet Zebra game, he predicted Scarlets by 14, which got him 3 points. Ospreys by 6, which got him 4 because he was the closest to the winning margin there. Connacht by 9, again got him the closest because I don't think anyone expected the Dragons to be that bad. And then he predicted Cardiff by 3. So actually, 1 point off is pretty fair going. And actually, in terms of how far away he's been from games, he's only been in total 138 points off his predictions. So
he's cheating.
Fair folks to him. He's done fucking well this season.
Yeah, he's got a referee in a back pocket somewhere, man. He's cheating on something, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Because I was set for that Cardiff losing by 15.
Cool. Right, Harley, my friend, we have reached the end of yet another podcast. And I've told, I'll just share one little stat with everyone that I shared with you guys today, which was so far this year. So the rap family, which is all of us. When I say all of us, some of us only started in September. The women's, the SRC, the URR, and all of them have gone really strongly on YouTube. Not necessarily on audio, just because that's the way we launched them to see how we could do. So on audio, so far this year, the rap family has today passed over 50,000 downloads, which for a small little independent podcast with a bunch of idiots that get together on a Monday night, have a couple of beers and just talk bollocks about rugby. I think that's quite good, and I'm impressed. And sometimes you've got to remind yourselves of these things, that actually we're doing all right. We're not doing bad. So it's a good positive to finish on. It's a good positive to finish on the end of the first block, and we move forward into the inevitable downward pull of international rugby over the next couple of weeks. We will be back next week. We shall be doing more of that. And until then, enjoy your rugby. All the best, man. That was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.